According to a 2020 ASIC survey, only 38% of Australian households follow a budget. And according to a 2021 report from MeBank, 18% of Australians have less than $1,000 in cash savings in their rainy day account, with 44% of that group having $100 or less. Welcome to Dollars and Dreams, the podcast designed to empower you to take control of your personal and business finance. You know, the very thought of money and finance can often send chills down your spine and stir up fear of the unknown. But let's change that narrative together. Through this podcast, my goal is to not only to provide you with useful information, but also to inspire and motivate you to take action towards your own financial goals. Let's rewrite your money story together. Hello and welcome to today's podcast of Dollars and Dreams. In today's podcast, I'm going to talk about creating a budget, but more importantly, how to stick to that budget. Creating a budget is only half the steps that you need to do to get financial control in your life. The more important part is to actually stick to it. And we all face challenges in our day-to-day life of sticking to our budget, me included. But it's important that you have strategies on how you will deal with some of the challenges that you will face when you're looking at your budget. So some of the things that we see with people when they create a budget is they go a feast or a famine. So they'll be sitting there and they think to themselves, I don't know where my money's going. I don't know how I don't have any savings. I earn a reasonable income, but at the end of the pay cycle, I actually have nothing and nothing to show for it. And you'll hear people quite often say, it's really easy to budget, save first, spend second. But when we're in the challenging times that we're in at the moment, where cost of living is increasing, our interest rates on our home loans are increasing, or if we're renting, obviously the rents are going up, that challenge of save first, spend second can be difficult, because if what you're leaving to spend doesn't equate to what you need to spend, it doesn't matter how much you save, you cannot live if you don't have the money to live on. Creating the budget and an accurate budget is the key to having control over your money. And having control over your money through a budget is what will allow you to make good decisions when you're challenged of where you want to spend money. So a budget, and a good budget, of course, is one that will tell you how much you've got to spend on your groceries, which gives you the knowledge to make adjustments, or how much you've got to spend when you go away for a weekend, or how much you've got to spend on gifts. And of course, with Christmas coming up, that can be a challenge for everybody, sticking to what you want to spend. So the first thing that we always say to people when they are financially challenged, or they don't see that they're reaching their financial goals, is to create a budget. As I said, some people think that that means I just put a set amount of my income into a bank account for spending, a set amount in for saving, a set amount in for an emergency fund. But without drilling down to find out where you're spending your money, you're actually not putting the strategies in place to change how you're spending. So a budget isn't about putting a pocket of money aside. And if you haven't listened to my podcast on my 6 bank accounts, that's a good place to start to find out what bank accounts you should set up so that you have financial control. But creating those 6 bank accounts, the back end of that is that we need to create a budget. So we work out where we're spending our money, and then we can put strategies in place to reduce where we're spending, or redirect where we're spending to spend less. Because the thing that I always say is there is no magic wand. Creating a budget does not give you control over your money if you don't create a saving plan or a way to reduce your spending. The magic wand can't change the situation that you're in. So the first thing that we always do is we find out where we're spending our money so that we can then make some changes. And just the small tweaks will make massive differences to your spending. So once you've created your budget, one of the things that I see with people is that they will go, as I said earlier, a feast or a famine. So they will recognize that they need to make some changes to where they're spending their money, but they'll perhaps say to themselves, I'm never going to buy my lunch anymore. I will take my lunch every day. I'm never going to buy coffee on the way to work, or I'm only going to, buy lunch if I'm out for an occasion, or I'm not going to buy any clothes for 12 months. And we've all seen those challenges on social media where we're challenged to not spend any money on clothing for a whole year, or any money that's unnecessary for a whole year. The problem with that is that you then become into the famine. So you've gone from having this lovely lifestyle and spending money and buying your lunch each day, or getting a cup of coffee when you're out with on a walk with girlfriends, or and buying something. But we never learn to control that. So we take ourselves to the opposite end, and we will make these statements that we're not going to buy any clothes for 12 months, or we're going to take our lunch every day, or not buy coffee, or we're not going to buy bottles of water when we're out. But that sets you up for failure. So your budget needs to be realistic. Now, it's great if you can not buy your lunch every day for the rest of your life. But for most of us, there'll be times that we'll get up and there's no food in the fridge because we haven't had time to go do the grocery shopping. Or there's some days that you just don't feel like what food is in the fridge. You don't want to make that sandwich. You want to treat yourself. And life is not about not having treats or not enjoying it. So I always find that the halfway mark is a great spot for most people to start. So instead of buying your lunch every day, buy your lunch twice a week. Take it 3 days a week. Or it might even be that the very baby steps that you take is that you just do 1 day a week that you don't buy your lunch and take your lunch that day. So have some leftovers from the night before. And it is important that it be a realistic budget. So as I said, people tend to go feast or famine. If you don't feel that you're one of those people that can't buy clothes for a whole year, why set yourself up for failure and take that on as a challenge? Maybe it's that you won't buy clothes every month. You might just go, I buy one shirt every couple of months. Come up with a way to cut small amounts. And if you've done a realistic budget, you should be able to stick with it. And it's one of those things that by looking at where you have been spending and putting small changes in place, it is realistic. You can always keep modifying a budget, which will bring me to my second point that I say to everybody. A budget is a living document. It is not a set and forget. Pricing of your things that you're buying changes. Your wages might go up. Your wage might go down because you've cut out some of your working hours. Keep in mind that with your budget, you should be tweaking it. That doesn't mean you have to sit down and redo it each time. But at the end of every month, I always say to people, you should tweak your budget because you've found a way of cutting out your cost of living. You've found a way to reduce your spending, that you can redirect that saving to building a better emergency fund or saving for some of those goals that you have in life. And it is important that a budget is looked at. As I said, doesn't mean you have to redo it, but you need to go through your budget on a regular basis. And I always say the start of each month, have a look at the month before. Did you meet your goals? Because it's no point setting a budget and then 6 months down the track find that you actually didn't stick to it, or you didn't make changes and you still overspent, or you didn't save for those goals, or you didn't reach the goals that you wanted to reach. Now, if anybody is interested, we have on our Got Money Honey website, which is at jenrichardson.co, we actually have a document called Show Me the Money Dashboard. It's $7. You put in where you've spent and it will show what days of the week you spend the most, how much of your wage went on living costs, how much went on luxuries and things like that. So it gives you everything in a really great graphic form. You keep that, you just clear it, you do the next month. And if you track your spending as you're going, you can see where you're up to. You can see that you're overspending the first part of the month and you're not going to have enough for the second part of the month. And the secret to sticking to your budget is to know that you can still do what you want to do. So if you find that you've spent way too much in the first half of the month, you may be tempted to go, this doesn't work, throw it out the door because I haven't got enough for my groceries for the second part of the month. Track your spending will stop that happening, and it's the key to you having control. And I always say it's a little bit like, when my kids were at school and they had an assignment to do, you didn't wait to the night before and realise that you actually don't have the resources. You didn't have the things that they needed to have to make that assignment that needed to be handed in. And I used to say to my kids, don't tell me the night before that you need paints or you need some colouring in pencils or you need paper or a globe. Tell me beforehand so that I can be prepared. And that is what tracking your spending does when it comes to your budget. So that is super, super important that you do track your budget. The third thing that we always talk about with our budgeting and how to stick to it is to have those bank accounts. And the bank accounts, as I said, that's my podcast episode 2, I think it was, where we talk about the 6 bank accounts that every single person needs. What the bank accounts does is it isolates your money into buckets. So there's a bucket there for your short-term savings. There's a bucket there for your long-term savings, your emergency fund, your nice things in life. So that's where you can save for, going away for weekends or clothes. And there's one for your everyday living and your bills. What those buckets do is they say, you've used up all the money. There is no more money. Doesn't let you steal from one of the other accounts. So that is a great way that you have control over your money if you struggle to stick to a budget. So go and listen to that podcast if you haven't listened to it. If you want any more information, just DM us and we will get that to you. But by creating those bank accounts, you have told yourself that this is all the money that I've got to spend on my luxury items. So if you've got $300 in that luxury bank account, you can't go out and buy $500 worth of clothes or go on a weekend away if you don't have the money to cover it. So that is a way that it forces you to stick to it. Now, obviously, that's some self-control that you need, that you don't go and steal from one of the other bank accounts, but that is one of the rules that you need to set for yourself. And this is about having some discipline. And so what those 6 bank accounts does is it makes sure that you have control. And it's a nice way of the bank account telling you that, sorry, you've used up all the money that you have set aside for this. So it is a super easy way for you to have control over your money. And of course, that is part of the key to sticking to a budget. The other thing that is super important that we remember is when we create a budget, it's important that you set aside money for fun. Now, we'll go back to what I said before, the feast or a famine. So when you're in your feast mode, you're probably wasting money, throwing money at things that you didn't need and having too much fun. If you go the other end of the spectrum and you go into the famine stage and you have no fun, you don't leave yourself money aside to go out or buy clothes or go to functions or go on holidays, you will very quickly become bored with your life. You will very quickly dislike a budget, and you will very quickly get annoyed and stop doing it. And then we go back to the feast stage. So it's a little bit like the yo-yo diets that we've all heard about going on, where you take everything out of your diet and you lose weight, yes, but when you come off it because you're bored with that diet, all of a sudden you're binging on all the things that you shouldn't have had and you're back to where you were. A budget is like a diet. It's a financial diet. you need to find the happy medium of how you can have control but still enjoy life. So it is important that you set aside money in your budget for fun, set aside money to do the things that you want to do, and set aside money to do things that are important to you. Because life is too short if you are in a famine mode all the time with your budget. So when you do your budget, make sure that you are realistic with how much you need to have fun, keeping in mind that there needs to be some moderation. And if there's a moderation and you're still having time out, still getting to do things, still enjoying life, you will be more likely to stick to your budget. The other things that we always say with your budget is always look for opportunities to save. Because as I said, there is no magic wand. There's nothing that just because you say you're going to do a budget will make you stick to it. And the way that a budget works best is to cut spending. You can increase your income, but a lot of us are time poor. A lot of us don't want to try and increase or find a side hustle. So cutting your spending is key to sticking to your budget because it will let you see that you are reaching your goals. And I'll talk a little bit more about goals in a minute. So look for opportunities to save. Don't waste money, basically. You don't want to have the tap running if you're not filling the sink to wash up type scenario. So don't go and buy things that is going to be wasted. Just because something is on sale or there is one of the marketing things we see quite often is spend and save. Let me be very clear. If you are spending money, regardless of whether it's on sale, whether there's discounting, you are still spending money. So it's important that you're only buying things on sale if it is something that you need or want, of course. But we need to make sure that if we're buying something, that it's actually going to be used. You don't want to be buying, food on sale if you're going to throw it away at the end of the week because you didn't cook with it. You don't want to be going and buying all the ingredients to make your lunch to take to work for 5 days if you don't actually take it. And then you cook up the meal and you just get up of a morning and go, I actually don't feel like that. I'm going to buy my lunch today. Because all you've done then is wasted money on food that you're going to throw away and still gone and bought your lunch. So keep in mind that whenever you spend money, you need to buy something that is usable. Don't get caught into the marketing tricks of something's on sale, so you're saving money. You're still spending money. So you've got to make sure that when you are spending, there is an opportunity to save. Look for bulk buys of things that don't perishable. Buy your tinned tomatoes when they're on special. Buy shampoo, dishwashing liquid, and all those things when they're on special. They're things that have a long shelf life. They're things that you can put there and you are actually saving money because it is something that you're going to need at some point without any wastage. Also look for opportunities to save that you might be able to share something with somebody. So if, for example, you wanted to buy a whippersnipper and that will make your job easier, maybe a neighbour needs a whippersnipper and you might be able to come to an agreement. That's not always practical, but there's lots of things like that. Growing your vegetables. And if anybody's listened to my podcast a couple of weeks ago with Mel, where she talked about her and her fiance now grow a lot of vegetables, that's an opportunity to save. Yes, there was a cost to them to start off with, to buy the soil, the seeds, the infrastructure to get their home garden going, but they now just have to buy seeds and that's it. And they've found a really good way to save money. So that will let you stick to your budget because you've changed a habit of going and buying food to now you grow your food. And the money that you would have been spending on budget, you can now use for nicer things in life, or paying down debts, or saving for a goal that you have. The other important thing that we always say with sticking to the budget is you need to learn to use a word that's one of the simplest words in the English language, but it's one of the hardest ones to use, and that's the word no. If people are asking you to go out, quite often we feel guilty because it's Christmas time and we should be out. If it doesn't fit with your budget or it's not something you want to do, just say no. And that's easier said than done. I understand that because we don't want to feel isolated. We want to be part of a social network. But if your budget can't afford it, you need to decide what's more important, achieving your goals and getting your financial future under control, or being part of a social set. That doesn't mean that you need to say no every single time, but say no and don't feel guilty about it. You are able to still enjoy Christmas without going to every single catch-up that is going to break the bank. Saying no doesn't mean you are a lesser person. It actually makes you a stronger person because you've been able to step outside the social norm. It means that you've taken responsibility that you can't afford something. So no is such an important word to learn to say. And you don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to give an excuse. You can just say, no, I don't want to do that. Or no, I don't want to spend money at that saving that the market is telling me I'm going to have. No is a really powerful word that you need to learn. So I've talked a little bit in the podcast up to now about saving money will help you reach your goals, but I haven't actually talked about goals. So I want to go into that now. And this is one of the first steps that we always do with somebody when we're working with them to get financial control over their life, is we always say to them, what is your goals? What do you want to achieve? And it's the purpose of that is that we're trying to find somebody's why, because your why is what's important to you. Your why is what will give you the motivation to continue, and your why is why you are doing this. So I want you to sit down and work out, what are your goals? What are your short-term goals? What are your immediate goals that you want to achieve? Everybody's goals are different, and I don't want you to listen to what other people's goals are. Particularly on social media, you will have people that go, everybody needs to have a holiday. Your holiday may be very different to somebody else's, and a holiday may not be the important thing for you at this point in time. We always tell everybody sit down and come up with 3 short-term goals and 3 long-term goals. The reason that we do that is the short-term goals are there to motivate you. So your short-term goal may be, as we said to start off with, that I don't buy my lunch every day of the week. The short-term goals gives you something to work towards that you have an ability to satisfy really quickly, because they're very motivating goals. It gives you a purpose. I mean, we all can remember when we first left school, for example, and we wanted to save to buy our first car. What was the why that we wanted that car? And for most of us, it was to give us the independence. We didn't have to ask mum and dad, could we borrow the car? We may have thought to ourselves that it was to buy a car. That's what we were saving for. But when you drill deeper into your why, you'll find out the reason that it is. So for me, it was I didn't want to have to borrow the car from mum and dad. I wanted to know that if I wanted to go to the beach, I just had to walk out, get in my car and go. I didn't have to negotiate with mum that my car had to be home by a certain time so that she could go and do what she wanted. If a girlfriend rang up and wanted to go shopping, I could just go out and jump in the car. So for me, it was the freedom. It was to give me a sense of control over my own life. For other people, it may be that they could get a job that they wanted. So you might be a tradesperson that one of the conditions of a job is that you have a car. My why was very different to the next person's why. And it's important when you're setting your goals that you dig into your why is that goal important to you. Believe me, when I was saving for that first car when I left school, it was very much, did I want to buy a dress or did I want the car? That gave me a point that I could make a decision of what was more important to me, which then gave me the ability to say where I was going to put my money and to stick to my budget. So if I'd set aside that I wanted to save $100 a week, for example, to buy a car, and I saw a dress that I needed that $100, I was making a decision in my mind what was more important to me. Was I going to keep the $100 and save to get towards having that car and my own freedom to do what I wanted? Or was buying that $100 dress more important to me? So my why let me make that decision. I'm here to say I didn't always choose the car. Sometimes I did choose the dress. And that might have been because I was going out on a date or I was going on a function. I didn't have a dress I wanted, but it forced me to make a decision on whether my budget was more important or the spending money was more important. So the goals will keep you motivated. The goals will give you a purpose, and the goals will tell you what you need to do. For some people that we work with, goal setting isn't enough, and maybe that's not enough for you that you stick to it. One of the other things that I've found that has made me stick to my budget really well is creating a vision board. And for those of you that don't know what a vision board, basically, it started out a piece of cardboard and you went and cut pictures out of magazines of what you wanted to achieve, or you wrote goals on it and all of those. And then you put that vision board somewhere where you see it several times of the day. So I have done a vision board when I was saving for a holiday. My very first holiday, I was going overseas without mum and dad. I wanted to go to the States, the United States, and I went and cut pictures out of Disneyland because that was one of the places I wanted to go. Niagara Falls, I wanted to go there. I wanted to go to New York. I wanted to go to all these different places. And I would put on the vision board all these things that I wanted to go and see. I would then, I also cut out pictures of things that I could change my savings for. So, clothes is my thing. I spend way more than I should on clothes and shoes. And so I cut pictures out of clothes that I would normally have bought, stuck it on, and I put this great big red cross through it. So that when I looked at that vision board, I could refocus my brain that I want to save for this holiday that I wanted to take. And I could see the dress with the big red cross through it, so that I knew in my brain that I was making a decision not to spend money on clothes, but more to save for this holiday that I wanted. And so a vision board keeps you focused on your goals, which will keep you sticking to your budget. Remember, the budget is the end result of the actions and responses that we have. And so sticking to a budget is a lot of mental strength, regardless of what you think. It's that mental strength to make a decision that is one way or another. It's the mental strength to know that you have a choice in everything that you do. So vision boards for some people are a great way to keep them focused, a great way to keep that mental picture of what's important to them. The end result is the budget. The budget is not the process. And that's an important thing to remember. So sticking to a budget is finding ways that works for you to remind you what's important so that the budget doesn't fall apart. Don't think having numbers in front of you will ever make you stick to anything. Now, I'm a numbers girl, but even numbers don't work for me because your brain does not work on numbers. Our brain works on pictures and visions. And so the vision board will constantly reinforce to your brain that there is a picture, there is a thing that you are saving for. If you just had $100, because that's what I wanted to save for my holiday or my car or whatever it was I was saving for, your brain can't do anything with that. It's a pile of numbers. And so it's important that you create a vision, create a picture, create something for your brain to stick to the process. I work a lot with what I'm doing with people we work with on visualization and pictures because that is a driving force for us. My last point that I want to do here is it is really important for you when you are budgeting and creating a budget to stick to is that you do reward yourself because life is about enjoying, life is about having rewards, and life is about reaching the goals that you want to do. So if you reward yourself as you're going through your budget, you are more likely to stick to it. And that is such a key point. So my takeaways from today's podcast is stick to your budget, is creating a vision so that your brain has a picture and can stick to what you're trying to do. Creating a realistic budget that gives you enjoyment in life and still allows you to live life. To automate what you're doing by creating your bank accounts to control your money, so that when you're feeling vulnerable or feeling not quite so strong, you don't overspend. Keeping track of your spending so that you can see where you're up to and see the improvements and things that you're doing. And you can do that, as I said, with my Show Me the Money dashboard, which is on our website at jenrichardson.co. It's only $7. It gives you all the graphs and shows you everything, and it's fantastic, even if I do say so myself. But look for opportunities to save. Look at how goal setting and your why can give you that motivation. And my last point, which I didn't go through but I'll do here, is be kind to yourself. If you make a mistake or you go over your budget or you don't stick to it, don't throw the towel in. We all make mistakes. Success is about making a mistake and picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and getting back into it. So if you fall foul of your budget and you overspend one week, just be kind to yourself, acknowledge that you did that, and move on. And of course, my last point is, if you are struggling with budget, seek help. Join a group. There's plenty of Facebook groups out there. If you are really struggling, get a financial counsellor. A financial counsellor can help you negotiate how you don't have to go into bankruptcy. You don't have to do things. But if you aren't at that point and you just need help with how to budget, you can come join me at My Money Makeover, and I've got lots of courses on jenrichardson.co website. Of course, we've got lots of free tools, tips, and resources for you. That's all for me today. Thank you for joining me on Dollars and Dreams, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, the advice shared in Dollars and Dreams is general in nature and it does not consider your own personal circumstances. Dollars and Dreams is for educational purposes only and should not be relied upon to make investment or financial decisions. If you need more help, please reach out to a financial advisor for tailored personal advice. Don't forget to click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. And please leave me a review. Your feedback really helps me to reach other people chasing their money dreams. You can find me over on Facebook and Instagram to connect with me. You will find the link in the bio, or head over to my website at jenrichardson.co, where you will find free content and learning tools.